time, I'm wasting all my time, I'm wasted, like all the time, wasted, oasis, precious, I know you're mine, I'm wasted, like all the time, wasted, oasis, you know what I hate, you know what I hate, she said she done, but I know that she ain't, neighborhood hero, don't need a cake, neighborhood hero, don't want a cake.
So how long have you been doing the podcast?
So I actually started it when I was like just graduating high school, I guess. It's like 2018, okay. 2019 was when I first got the idea to do it. And then I just ran it for maybe, I don't know, maybe less than a year. And
yeah, just a little kind of trying it out, seeing how it went.
Exactly. Yeah. And I wasn't willing to invest in like anything. Like I had like my dad's old like camcorder camera, freaking I had $20 mics. That was like the only money I was gonna spend. I was shooting episodes in my dining room table.
Oh, like that's where it all starts though.
Oh my god, dude, it was awesome. It was awesome. But it very quickly occurred to me like, yes, I had started my first company technically at like 17, where I was selling stuff for people on Facebook. Yeah, which is like it was like consignment, but like just a little early to be like telling people like business advice, and I had no direct like I was just interviewing young entrepreneurs around me, which was cool. Like but
at the same time, you're like your network was only so big. But like at the same, like,
it was only so big.
You're interviewing friends and like you're figuring out like people skills and everything too. Like that's like
athletes, and it was like I had this definitely. It came up so quick. Like, who am I to be talking? Yeah. And when you're 19, I don't have the self-confidence I have now to like, no, actually nobody gives a fuck. Yeah. And if I had been doing it for maybe the last 4 years, whatever, who cares? But like, same thing. It's like, I think you have to go through that to
100%.
to realize that. So yeah, well, that was a good first intro. But Andy, thank you for coming on. First thing, like the hospitality has been amazing. For those of you that don't know, Andy we've only known each other for like 2 months. And you've just been so open arms to me and Lars. So, Andy Varnes, welcome on, dude. Thank you.
Thank you, man. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, y'all are awesome. It was cool to meet both of y'all. I mean, I think it was less than 2 months ago. Yeah, it was definitely less than 2 months ago.
Yeah. So maybe only a month.
Hopefully, even though I don't know how much longer I'll be in the studio, but I'm happy y'all been able to use it a little bit here and there.
Yeah, it was funny. When I was prepping for this episode, I watched your first video in here, like when you opened the studio, because I've always had that, like I never wanted like a brick and mortar marketing agency, but I wanted like a creative studio where I could do whatever I want.
I'm telling every single person either wants a photo studio and a coffee shop. Yeah. Like those are the two things that be like, it doesn't matter what type of person it is, like that, like a little like creative studio and a coffee shop, everybody wants.
Yeah. So like that video is awesome, by the way. So I kind of want to, before we get into the business details and whatnot, I want the audience to get to know you. Obviously, me too, honestly, because like I said, we met literally a month ago. Mm-hmm. And shout out to Jason Bartlett, because he gave me this question. Okay. But if you like, what are the most important contexts from your past that we need to know about you before getting into like your success? Like if you had to go back,
like context or like context? Context. Okay. Yeah. Quick little 30-second portion about me. Probably the biggest thing you should know. I didn't pick up a camera until 2019. So I'm not that crazy long into everything. The reason I got into it was because I was attempting to play college basketball, and I'm a short white guy, so obviously that was not going to work out. Got hurt, and that's kind of how I fell into photography, videography. The one piece of advice that I was given that kind of helped me scale very, very quickly was just work harder than everybody else, and eventually you'll get there. So that's kind of the quick little rundown of kind of some context about me. I used to be an athlete, and then that transitioned into this kind of part-time photography gig, and that transitioned to where I am now.
Okay, interesting. And now take me back even further. Entrepreneurship, when did it start to get on your radar? Were there signs as a kid that this was something you were going to want to do? Did you have other aspirations? Can you kind of take me through that a little bit?
So I never thought entrepreneurship was in the cards for me. But then looking back, I realized how much of kind of an entrepreneur I actually was, like looking back on everything. Because like growing up, all I really cared about was sports. So like that's what you did. So I didn't really start businesses. But I remember being like 5 years old, and I remember making my first little like sale and it was like a pool. It was like this pipe pool hanger thing where you could put like clothes on. And that was by far the best business I've ever had in my life, because the way it worked was my grandfather would buy all the materials, I would make it, and then I would sell it and keep all the profits. Like,
where were you selling it at 5 years old?
I mean, little family members and
they're like pipe cleaners, like designs.
It was like think like pipes that like go underground.
Okay.
And then I would like kind of build them. I was a little older than 5, but I would kind of build them to where it was like a clothes drying rack.
Oh,
so
okay, cool.
Super simple. And then in like middle school, I remember I used to make like duct tape wallets.
Cool.
Like
okay, I remember those kids.
Like it was in like the silly bands era and everything. So I was like trading silly bands and making like duct tape wallets.
Yeah.
In high school, I started a lawn care service.
Cool. Me too.
Yeah. My mom fired me from mowing our lawn. That's how bad I was at that. And then in college, that's when I actually like got into entrepreneurship and stuff like that.
Because you're 24 now?
Yeah, I'm 24.
Okay, so when did you graduate college?
I actually didn't. I'm 6 credits short. I never, in 2021, that's when I decided to take a break. And it's just been a very long break. So.
Yeah, 2 sold companies later. I don't blame you. And now take me present day. Give me the 30,000-foot view on what the last 6 months has been like.
Okay, so last 6 months been quite a crazy change. I had 2 companies. One was a chef staffing company. One was this photography media. I ran social media for businesses. Last 6 months, I actually I sold the chef company outright, and then I was just acquired for my social media company.
Okay, cool. So yeah, that's where I really want to go. Let's talk about, you said it was a chef staffing company.
Yeah.
Okay. First off, why chefs? And is it the high turnover in restaurants? Is that like where the pull was to launch one of these? Or like, can you take me, like when did those ideas start to form that a staffing company was going to be profitable?
There was absolutely no formation. There was no ideas. There was absolutely nothing. It was a idea of, this guy came to me, said, hey, we have this Facebook group of like 30,000 people, and if like they were all like chefs, think just like any sort of Facebook group. How can we make money on it? I was like, I kind of got thrown into everything because, when it's probably the same with you with any young kid, like somebody that doesn't really understand technology, they just figure like any kid is going to understand anything about computers. So like, you can make an app, right? And me being just like dumb and young, I'm like, sure, I can figure it out.
He asked you to make an app?
Yeah, they were like, can you make an app? And I'm like, sure, we could probably figure it out.
And you're just out of college?
I'm still in college. I'm
still in
20. College. I think I'm 21 at this
21.
time.
Okay,
so
cool.
21. Yeah. I'm like, yeah, let's kind of figure it out. And then we brought in a friend of ours, Brody, who you've met. So I kind of brought him in because I'm like, Brody knows digital marketing, not anything about apps, but I'm like, he could probably help us. And then this was right in the time to when we were pulling out of Afghanistan. And so you had a lot of refugees coming over. And we suddenly were asked, actually, we don't need anything about this app. We literally just need to feed these people. Can you just send us people to come and work? So in a matter of about 3 days, it like switched to, instead of this app idea, we are now a staffing company to where we were sending people to go work. So that actually falls through. We're like, okay, we make a switch. We're going. We switch everything over in a matter of like a week, trying to figure everything out. All that like falls through. But then like 2 days later, we get a call from 2 universities and they're like, our staff is going on strike. We need people here like yesterday. How quickly can you get 60 people on planes here? Yeah, chefs to like cook in the kitchen. Like they're chefs in the kitchen, the cooks, like everybody there are like they're going on strike.
How did they hear about you?
So someone in the Facebook group had like reached out through there. So
power of 30,000 people.
Yeah, I mean it was like literally just by like happenstance. So again, a lot of luck. kind of thrown into everything, but it was kind of up to us to kind of take the opportunity and run with it. And that's what we did. We had no systems in place, like literally nothing except for this little Facebook group. And yeah, that's it. So like I basically switched to, I was figuring out a lot of the operational side of how to get these chefs from like, Kansas into an Uber, onto a plane, to a hotel, to another Uber to show up by like Monday morning. And I had to do, and for like, the first wave was for like 35, 40 people.
And how long did you have to organize all that?
Like 4 days.
And okay, so now I want to stop right there. So you get 4 days notice, you need all these chefs flown out. How are you self-funding this? Have they already paid you?
So they ask us, they're like, hey, we basically say, hey, that's great. We can send people out, but we need money. They're like, how much money do you need? And I'm not going to say the specific amount, but we thought it was a huge, let's just say it was in the range of like 20K. So like that's kind of where we were like, okay, to fly people out, hotels, all that stuff. I was like, that should be around those range. That seemed like an astronomical number to me, like 20,000. I'm like broke college student.
Yeah, you're talking about 35 guys. Okay.
Then that money, I mean, like that gone, just like all the flights, everything going. So that was how we were able to get people out there, and it was absolutely crazy that first contract. We almost didn't make payroll multiple times. Because again, we were self-funding, so we were counting on other people to pay us in order to pay our people.
Okay, so when you're running a staffing company, you're depending on the to pay you guys so you can pay out the actual staff that you sent out there.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
So and
if they're not sending you enough money, those guys, you can't pay them, but they're working there and you guys are not there.
Yeah, so we had one guy that was working there. We had another guy who he had a basically family crisis going on, and then we had another guy that was like work, so like everybody was like fully spread thin. It was like a 4-guy operation as we're building everything. But like think about like transportation issues, money issues, everything. We had a per diem that we had to pay per day, so each chef was being paid $60 a day for a per diem, so like a day, just like a daily payout. Well, we have to pay them somehow. That's over $3,000 a day.
And so because there's no systems or budgeting,
we are cash apping, we are Venmoing, everything. You want to talk about later on a tax nightmare and like an accounting nightmare? Our accountants were like, "Why did you do this?" And I'm like, "I'm 21. I don't know. We don't know what we're doing."
And where's
here.
the third partner in all this? Is he helping you organize? Like,
yeah,
he's handling the logistics, helping you with the logistics.
He is busting his butt.
Yeah.
In Chicago.
He's boots on the ground.
Yeah,
gotcha. He's the head of the Facebook group.
I'm back in. Someone's handling finances. Like everybody's like we're basically running a full company with like 4 people. So it's absolutely just like insane.
And how long was it like this? Was it just for that first contract?
Yeah, that first contract. We barely skate through it. We make all the payments. We make everything, but we were able to kind of like breathe through it. We got through it, but afterwards we were like, hey, we've worked with this big company. We've worked for these universities. Now we're a staffing company. So that's kind of how that business came to be, to where we said, hey, we have an opportunity. We have nothing in place, but we're going to take it and run with it and figure it out. So that's how the first business started, and we grew it, for the next 2 years. And then May 1st, a bigger staffing company came in and bought me and Brody out.
Okay, cool. And we'll get into that process a little bit, as much as we can, in a second. But when you're talking about, okay, you have that first experience, what leads to 2 years of sustainability? Like, what was the biggest change you made? Because I know there's guys out there watching this that probably having staffing companies, management as a whole, they have similar situations come up. So I'm just kind of curious.
So I'm going to be completely honest, man.
Yeah.
You are going to have opportunities in life where you just catch the wave and you just ride it for as long as you can. You catch the opportunity. For that company right there, we rode the wave for as long as we could.
Gotcha.
And then we exited because I don't have those answers.
Right.
We were able to see a problem, solve the problem. We rode the wave and
hand it off to smarter people.
Yeah, and we basically handed it off to smarter people. I know how to run a staffing company now. Did I know then? Do I still know? Do I still know today? If you throw me into a random staffing company, can I run it pretty well? But am I going to take it to new heights?
Yeah.
Most likely not. That isn't an industry that I know overly well. So it was by a luck thing, and we took it and ran with it. But in life, you're going to get more opportunities than you think. It's up to you to figure it out. But the social media company was the exact opposite, to where it was like this very slow growth thing. So I was really able to see the difference between when you have an opportunity and the market's with you and you can just ride it to the top, and then another one to where everybody knows a photographer, everybody knows a videographer, and you have to
create your own
way all the way to as high as you can get.
Yeah, super cool. Yeah, we're about to dive into the social media company, because obviously that's why we're really here today. But yeah, I think the staffing agency stories is important because there's a lot of 20 somethings out there, 18s out there that they may be at a startup. It's totally, if you get an opportunity. I was just listening to the Stephen Bartlett podcast on the way here. He interviewed the founder of Spotify, and he was asking, would you go to college for entrepreneurship? And he says, straight up, no. I wouldn't necessarily, it's for some people, but the reason being was that he thinks as an entrepreneur, it's a lot more valuable experience to go work under somebody or catch fire, like you say, at something that's you see on an uptrend, especially when you're at that 18 to 25, ballpark, because you have nothing but time. And if you have no experience, like you said, but you knew you had the tangible skills that they trusted in you somehow.
Yeah.
You had the whereabout for him to call you and be like, okay, if anyone's gonna be able to solve this problem, it might be Andy. And then you just applied your creativity to it, and now you had a valuable experience, leverage, exit. I think you guys provided a lot of value in that 2 years. I mean, 2 years is a long time. A lot of guys aren't willing to commit to that. If they had that first experience, I bet 99% of the people, hopefully not watching this, but probably watching this, would quit.
Yeah. I mean, where getting into companies and these startups, those 2 years affected the rest of my life, because it puts you through the fire. For one, you just get this extreme sense of mental toughness, and whenever bad things happen, it's nothing ever happens. You just get so used to it, to where the world doesn't end every time after a while. I think for a lot of people our age, those learning lessons won't happen for a while, and they're going to be, here and there. For me, I got to really, really work on that skill level of being able to handle stress very, very well for that short amount of time. Yeah. So that was the first big thing. The second thing was, I also realized how much easier it is to run a business like that than a trendy business. Mm-hmm. Everybody talks about drop shipping and social media, and again, I am all in that space. I understand it. I research it. That is where everything lies. Yeah. Coming from somebody that is in this business that also ran what would be considered a very boring business, a more so logistics business, mm-hmm. That's where, if you really want to make money, that's where you're going to make way more money with way more opportunity. I mean, the roads are clear over there. Right. I will say you're definitely going to hit some ditches, and you're going to, get hit along the way, mm-hmm. and it's going to be tough because it's something that you've never done before. Mm-hmm. But there's so much more opportunity for very, very quick growth.
Yeah, 100%. And now, diving into the social media agency, how long after the exit did you feel ready to start a new venture? Because was there any period of, I just sold, or I just, was exited this company, I'm not going to say retire, but you felt like there's just a period where you didn't have something you were focused on every day?
I really wish I did, but I didn't, because this is a good example for most people that life is really, really long.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you're on a high, you need to take a little bit of a chill pill, walk away from the table before you jump back in and get another hand of blackjack. Because what happened with me, what happened with Brody was we were like, again, friends, family, everybody that knew us and were close to us, they're like, hey, you need to take 2 weeks, take a month, just chill for a little bit.
But you're 22.
We had, this is going to be so bad.
Uh-huh.
We had our next business venture signed, like dotted, ready to go into the next business venture before the sale agreement of the chef business was fully complete. And that was a great lesson to learn, because that second thing turned out to just completely crash and burn within the first like couple weeks. We didn't lose a ton of money on it, but it was a very easy learning lesson of let's really sit down and, you know, play the game the right way and don't rush into anything. So I sold the chef company May 1st. From there, I got to have the opportunity of running Varnes Media Company full-time for the first time in my life. I thought I was going to do that for the next 3 to 4 years and build it up to about a 7-figure company. As of September 1st, we were actually acquired by a bigger marketing company. Mm-hmm. And I would never have thought that I would have done that, but it's crazy how God works. So the question of how much time, literally no time. And I do regret that. I went right from sale to jumping into another venture while doing Varnes Media. Mm-hmm. So I jumped right into a second business while running this.
So you're running your own outside of Brody, pretty much.
Yeah. Like it was, I mean, there wasn't a stopping point. We just jumped right into the next thing.
Gotcha. Interesting. And why, even being in the, you know, you sound happy about the acquisition spot now, would you say it was a bad decision because you had like the one failure with can you talk about that business at all? Like why it crashed and burned?
Sure.
Yeah.
So the thing that we jumped right back into, it was a breathalyzer for bars.
Okay.
So basically think like in a bar, you pay $2 and you could it would spit out a little straw and you would blow the straw. You would blow.
I've seen those.
Blow into those.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, super, super easy. Think like a different style of like a vending machine. Like everybody talks about like the vending machine thing and like consistent revenue.
And you probably were thinking people drink everywhere.
Yeah. Kind of same concept. I don't want to get too far into it, but let's just say it was kind of the people that we were buying the stuff from, the way they were getting the machines into the bars was kind of shady. And we didn't think, we thought they were legit, and then we get the stuff and we start working, and then we realized, oh, this is kind of a shady business and we don't want to go down this path too quickly. So yeah, we kind of learned our lesson there of not doing our research.
Okay, interesting. Okay, cool. So it just came back to not doing research. It's definitely an interesting pivot, but why not? Like you said, crash and burn. Learn from
again, I've had more failed businesses than successful ones.
Yeah, and I can say the same. Even
I think most people should.
I think it's just part of the whole thing. I don't think there's one way that this all takes place, especially as an entrepreneur. I think you're always kind of failing and succeeding. Like I could stay here because at the end of the day, it's all perspective, not to get too broad, but like this is a win for me. Like being able to sit down, somebody who's already sold 2 companies at 24 and just pick your brain for 45 minutes. It helps me. It helps my business. It helps my audience, right? For your on the personal branding side, again, it's another opportunity to market yourself for free, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, so I think we're always kind of learning and failing, but I'm curious, you know, how were you, let's talk about the bad times a little bit. Because there's guys in there that are, you know, they're crashing and burning. They're probably not, their ego is probably telling them they're not crashing and burning. I've been in that spot where you're like, things are going downhill, but you just choose not to acknowledge it. Mm-hmm. Was there any bit of like, you know, did you say you guys caught it at the right time, or did you try to make it work for a while on any of your failed businesses? And if there's like a story that comes to mind, you can go into that too. But
I think for me, the ability to pivot has definitely always been a very big skill, to where it doesn't matter what business venture, where we're going down. If I see in the cards of it failing and there's an area to where we can pivot and move, I will do that very quickly.
Cool. Okay.
I think one thing to the people that you're talking about that are kind of in the fire figuring everything out, I think for a lot of people, they think it's either, I think for people like you was talking about, they feel like their ego's too much to say things aren't as bad as they actually are. They think that it's a little bit worse. In all reality, it's not that bad.
Yeah.
It's just a business.
Yeah.
I've been in way worse situations. The more of those situations you put yourself in, the better.
Yeah.
Because as you do that and you just kind of slowly inch out again, and you just kind of slowly, get out of it slowly each and every time, and you're going to get burned and you're going to struggle and you're going to be stressed. The more times you do that, the more confidence you build to understand that, okay, it's not that big of a deal. Where I was a couple of years ago, when something bad would happen, it would mentally destroy me. I would not be able to sleep. I was so stressed. That was the only thing I was focused on. Now, if something bad happens, I understand that, okay, if everything completely crashes and burns and I have to completely restart, if the worst thing possible happens, it's not that bad.
Yeah.
Like it really isn't. Like we have so much opportunity to just kind of restart and regrow. We are playing on so much, bought time. Most people at this stage are focused on, still partying, are focused on still going out. We were blessed to have the understanding way earlier than most people, because most people don't think about their future until after they've had kids or they're 30, when they feel like they've grown up a little bit. Mm-hmm. We have so much time to just try and fail. And yeah, so whenever those people are in those rough times and they're kind of in over their head, that's a great time to sit back and say, this is going to be an awesome story one day.
Yep.
And if you make it out, awesome.
Yeah.
If not, so what? It's not like you lost a house, kids, a family. Like you just restart. So what?
Exactly. And it's like, it goes along. Like if you're going through hell, keep going, because you're going to get through it. Like if you feel like you're in that spot, this is like you talked about, the more you go through it, the more resistant you're going to be, and you're going to you become a very active problem solver. I think I've noticed that a lot. Big theme with what you just said was just, failing fast. I've always noticed, like, when I'm failing, I know I'm trying. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the same thing at the gym. Like, I know health and wellness always comes up on this, but it's just like, if you're in the gym and you're trying to max, it's really the same with your business and your reps. Like not every day are you going to, or not every month are you going to close 50%.
Yeah.
But if you close 30%, the next month you close 40%, and you just keep inching up and stacking the small positive habits, like we talk about all the time, it's like you will get out of it. Where you're not going to get out of it, where you're going to keep going down, is the negative thought patterns, like you were saying, getting caught in your head, making almost like the universe, source, whatever, know that you're dependent, or making it feel like you're dependent on the outcome of really anything, because you don't have control over a lot of things in your life, usually ends up in them just continuing to be bad because your perspective is all fucked up. But
yeah, I mean, the way I look at it, and this is something that I tell myself, and I may be completely wrong. Mm-hmm. So, but what I tell myself is, okay, you're gonna have bad days, but if you do what you're supposed to do and what other people have done to get successful, eventually you'll be there. So yeah, today's bad, but if tomorrow you still get up and you're in the office by 5:30, if you still try to build a personal brand, still knock out all of your work, for that day and get it done, if you still go and work out, if you still try to learn something and you try to do that every day, eventually you're going to get to a place in life where you are successful, because that is the blueprint that other successful people took.
100%. And I'm so big on this, to the point of, like, I used to be 17, 18. I'm curious who some of these people were for you coming up, if there were any people. But Iman Godzi is a big one that I always talk about, where like I just saw a 17, 18-year-old kid who's literally younger or only like 9 months older than I am, like meditating, for telling me he's going on 30-day meditating retreats, or just like being silent all day and just doing like the very little things, like what time he woke up. I just started waking up. What he did, how he treated, or how he looked at. He had this big philosophy on women where like they were attracted to him and they came to him, and everything, he attracted everything in his life, and he would focus on those things. And that's just what I was like, I'm gonna have those same thoughts, literally down to the thought level, have the same thoughts. And I started creating some of the same life. Now I am, running this marketing agency, doing the things I'm doing. So it is you hit a great point on that, where like you don't put a lot of pressure to follow like the business example they necessarily set. Because I think I've been there, and a lot of guys can get there where like they think, only way to be like them is to, build a business like them. It starts with the smallest habits they're doing. If you haven't mastered those habits, how the fuck do you expect to know how to like manage the stress it takes to run something as big and have as big of an impact as that is?
Exactly. And what really sucks, and I'm not trying to turn this thing into like a whole motivational speech that,
no, it's cool.
That we're going
it's good.
down, like we're going in this direction, but I do want to really make this point. It really sucks that people of our generation, it's really easy for us because all we have to do is work a little bit harder, and honestly not even work a little bit harder, just do what needs to be done. And we jump to like the top 5% of our generation. But it's going to be so sad that I can think of people, and you probably can think of people, they've never actually worked their hardest at something. It's tough to work your hardest at a specific thing. What you're talking about, and what Iman Godzi and all these different people, if you were to work your hardest at life, if you were to work your hardest in your in your physical life, in your business life, in your personal life, in your relationship type of life, in your spiritual life, if you were to actually give your best into all of those different aspects, you're going to go somewhere. You're going to be successful.
100%. And a good reframe on this, just before we move on, is like when we talk about working hard, right? And we have like, there's always those misconceptions and whatnot. It's like you said, working hard to be your best. So I'm constantly, and I tell people this, and I do this myself, it's like in each thing that you're doing, if you ask yourself the question, how would the best version of me do this, host this interview, have this closing call, and you just, like we say, shoot for the stars and you'll hit the moon. Like, just think, okay, what would the best version of me, how would the best version of me do this? What would they be thinking? And then go and do that activity. And it's going to be a lot better than dreading it, thinking like, oh, it's just another day, or I feel like this today, so I get to act like this. It's like, no, what would the best version of you do? You don't need to work hard, like super hard. You just need to think, what would they do, and do those things, and it won't feel like a lot of work because you've already told yourself this is what the most optimized version of you would do.
I got to learn that lesson pretty early in life at the age of 18. I went up to go play basketball at a university in Atlanta, Georgia. I remember showing up there and looking around, and obviously you're seeing, okay, most of the guys they're going to be taller, look more athletic. There's basically one other white guy that looks like me. His name's Mike. He's one of my closest friends now.
Cool.
I immediately am thinking, okay, I can at least get him. Mike absolutely destroyed me in every which way. He is more athletic. He can shoot better. He can dribble more. He could beat me in every single sprint. He can beat me in every single thing basketball related, and it was absolutely demoralizing. And I realized this very, very early on. Well, after spending time with him and we would work out and do different things, I realized the reason why. It was because where I came from, I was generally one of the hardest people working in there. I was one of the hardest workers. I was one of the top people usually finishing in sprints and whatever. But what I realized was that I never actually had worked my hardest in that sport. Mike had worked his hardest every day. It didn't matter what everybody else was doing. He was going to push himself to his absolute max. And currently Mike is not playing, professionally overseas, living his dream. But I got to learn that, and it makes you feel pretty small, realizing that you left a lot on the table because you weren't willing to just work your hardest
to put it
on it.
Yeah.
So I got to learn that lesson, and I realized I didn't want to feel that way again.
Yeah, and now you contribute it to business, and that's super interesting, dude. We relate a lot because I had a similar story with track and like just where I left my last year because like a lot of the same reasons. There are guys that were committing every single day, running the times I always talked about running, and it just got to be like one of those things where it was like a little too much. But I took a lot of ownership for it, and I can tell you did too. Like for you, what was the other focus? Was it just having the freedom and like experiencing life of college? Can you point to anything, or was it just a clear sign of like, this is just not the thing I really want to rock with anymore?
For as in
like why?
Or
like what was the resistance to like? Did you acknowledge the fact that Mike was just working harder than you every day after school, or was it in school? And like what else? What were you focused on aside from basketball that you think detracted you from that level of like commitment?
Is life.
Yeah, like experiencing life, right?
Life just makes it easier. Like if you have a focus, if you have a goal, and you want to give it your full effort, then that means you have to sacrifice the comfortable things.
Right.
And at the time, I didn't want to sacrifice the comfortable things.
Mm-hmm. I was exactly. You're speaking my same thing. It was like, you know what? We have this. You're in your home, in your school for the first.
You want to sleep in. You want to hang out with friends. You want to eat what you want.
Yeah, you want to meet girls. You want to go out. Yeah. Like, it is exactly, and it's an interesting rope. But I think that's why the guys that are successful in their athletics and like why I always respect it, those are the guys that have always sacrificed the most. I think about, shout out Austin Reed. Like he's the QB at Western Kentucky right now, and he's having hell of a season, and he was a guy where you never saw him at the parties in high school. He never went out in college. He was always just dialed in. He got straight A's, and he played football, and that's what he did, and he was the hardest worker in the room, and he made it. Another guy is playing for the Patriots now, Demario Douglas, 81, literally 6th-round pick. He's starting on Sundays right now.
Yeah.
And I grew up with him, and it was the same thing from kindergarten on. The kid he didn't grow up in maybe the best of the best neighborhood or like have the best of the best surroundings all the time. A lot, I would say, harder life than maybe I and maybe some of my friends had coming up, but he never got detracted from it. It was always, nope, I'm just going to show up every day, work hard at football, take care of my family. Yeah. And he had that goal in mind, and he achieved it.
Yeah.
And I think that's really motivating. Like, it was a different feeling watching like him get drafted and watching some of my other friends like when they like sell their business or like have this big success. It's a different feeling when they've put in the hours.
Yeah. And you're so much prouder of them.
Yeah.
Because especially you saw them from the very bottom and kind of come up and that's what always excites me is when I see other like friends of mine from older and they're like, man, I'm just like, I'm so proud of where you're going, and that amps me up.
Yeah, it definitely flips a switch, I think, in everyone around him. And that's why they say when you're performing at your best, it motivates the people around you. I just think if you're going to focus, if you're not going to do it for yourself, and this helped me, I've been on this like self-development journey now. I was talking about it with my mom today where it's like for about 2 years.
Yeah.
Well, I've created the habits. It doesn't feel like to think about writing and journaling every day. I don't have to think about praying. I don't have to think about really meditating. I just get up and I do it. Mm-hmm. And I think like just the biggest, how it makes the people around me better. So I was in a place where I didn't necessarily want to do it for myself beforehand, like going through a breakup, going through all these kinds of things. But I did notice the days I did meditate, those were better days. And the days I committed to my habits, I watched other people that never hit the gym start going to the gym. And I watched when I started working on my business in high school and then in college, I started watching other people that I kind of knew launch businesses. And I was like, oh, this is what I get a kick out of.
Yeah.
Like, call it selfless, and just like now I've become a little more selfish and like wanting to build me. But that's always been my motivation. I was like, you know what? If I'm having a bad day, if I don't do it, then somebody else is going to be like, oh, he didn't show up today. Now I'm not even going to start. Mm-hmm. But I think it's, yeah.
No, I mean, you're absolutely right. One of the easiest ways to put it is it's like having a gym partner. You're excited that they're pushing themselves, and it makes you want to push yourself further, and you also don't want to let them down, so you're going to make sure you show up every day, and they don't want to let you down, so they're going to show up every day, and you both get better at the same time.
100%. And now shifting a little couple gears, I want to take it back to talk to me about prepping a company. We'll go like a business turn here. I know it's a complete 360, but just before we wrap up, I did want to make a point of this. Prepping I know the staffing company is different. You kind of took us through that. Being acquired, were there things before the acquisition happened where I guess you weren't necessarily planning on it, but could you give advice to somebody who maybe that is their goal, or what to look for, like to create that possibility? I mean, are there things you need to have in place to even make that a potential like reality for people?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've sold 2 companies, and they were 2 completely different situations.
Of course.
The first one, if you want to sell out of a company, create a item, create a asset list, create, a revenue stream where all they need to do is pick it up and keep moving forward with it. That's basically what the first company was. So that is being able to take yourself completely out of the business, and it can still operate without you having to put out all the fires.
Did it take a substantial investment before your exit to make sure those systems were in place?
We cash flowed everything. So it depends on what you mean by investment. So you had to hire more staff. It was hiring a staff. It was giving people more opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
And it was putting operations and systems in place, and honestly finding another A player that can kind of run that day to day. So that was the first way. Then the other the second go round of where it was more of it was an acquisition. They saw me as someone that they say, we really, really want you to be a part of our team. So this wasn't hey, we want the system, the cog in the machine that we can just kind of take it and strap it up to our system. No. We want your brain, to come with us and take us to new heights. So that's kind of what happened with that one, to where.
And this is the social media marketing agency.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And so what does it look like life now post being acquired? How does your day-to-day change? Has it changed at all, or is it more just working under a different, I don't know what the word is?
The way it works now is I get to focus strictly on what I love, which is social media. I get to do that day in, day out. I don't need to necessarily focus on the accounting side or bringing the work in. The work is flowing in, and I have to focus on fulfilling and creating products that we can scale and take to national markets.
Okay.
So that's my day-to-day. One thing that I quickly realized was you lose a little bit of a fire when you aren't alone. And that's something that I had to gain back. I had to implement more forms of discipline, because when you're running your own thing, there's something always to do. There's always something that needs to be done. Needs, accounting, softwares, learning, building, everything. There's always something that's going to be needed to be done. For, when you go to more of a company and you're more so part of a team, you have work that needs to be done. And when the work is done, your work is done. So you still need to think like that entrepreneur, though. Right. You still need to be able to implement those systems and keep building and seeing where can things improve. So that was a definitely a mind shift of when I transitioned, noticing that I was more inclined to sleep in a little bit if I wanted to, because other people were getting there later in the day. So I felt, okay, I can show up a little bit later. So it's little things like that, and keeping the fire, keeping the passion, within you. Yeah,
that's a good point. Like, don't forget who you are.
Yeah.
With each new opportunities. Because like if you had whoever you were the previous opportunity, that's what opened this door. And that's what those, not to set expectations, but like they hired the operator, right? They hired the guy who could think on his feet. And if you're not getting the reps doing that, I think you hit on a good point where because of the way that you're going to do that in this role is going to be different, there is that gap because you just haven't been around it enough to acknowledge that, whoa, there's actually not a lot of extra I'm doing here going on. But now, and then be like, okay, what can I start doing? You have to have that lack to think that you need it, right? If you just never had that feeling, you're just dialed in at the office 5:30 every day, you would just think you're having the same job.
Yeah.
But because the title changed, naturally as humans, we kind of are like, okay, a lot of things are gonna change, but they don't necessarily have to. Just kind of like, it's more like we still have control, even though we kind of feel like we may have lost a little bit of control. But I think that was important.
Andy Elliott, if you know who he is or if you've looked him up, he does basically sales training. He's a pretty hardcore dude.
Yeah.
But he doesn't look at his bank account. His wife handles all of his finances because for him, he wants to start at zero every day and have to go earn it. Listening to that, it definitely helped me saying, okay, yeah, it's a lot easier now that, okay, I have income now and I've sold 2 things and I'm like, okay, I'm not struggling near as much anymore. But that comfort set in. So I had to get back to the point to where my bank account needs to feel like it's zero every single day. I need to fight every single day like I was. If I don't do that, well then I just become average slowly over time, and I don't want that to happen.
100%. That's so good because at 24, and there's a lot of guys out there that are making great money, at a younger age. Like it can be so easy because you've probably dreamed about this life all along, right? Like it's come to this point where it's just you finally felt like that security that you may have always been looking for. So you probably feel like, okay, I put in 23 years of work, even though it's only like 4 or 6.
Yeah.
But you could convince yourself pretty easily. Yeah, it's been 23 years of making this happen.
I deserve this. I've worked hard. But like, no, you don't.
Yeah.
You got things to do.
Yeah. The only thing you open the door to is more higher level work. But I do like that it does give you the sense of creative freedom. I think that's another good rule of thumb for a lot of people. I mean, depending on who you are, I just think if you want to practice living abundantly, do the same thing. If you have a set amount of retainers coming in and you're good at, customer, relations and whatnot, you're not afraid about losing them all the time, then it's like, don't look at it look at it every 3 weeks, or don't look at it. Look at it once a month. Don't look at it. Because then you'll just forget that it's there. I think I find myself doing that a lot, where as long as I just forget what's even there, I always just think about the other things I've got to take care of. I'm like, I still have business expenses that are going to go out every single month, and the more this grows, the more I'm investing into it. Everything that's coming back, I'm really giving back because I know it comes back to you. Like it's just the cycle. You built this entire studio and then you're acquired, and it was a result of them seeing like, okay, if he can do this, imagine what he can do not having to manage all this shit 40 hours a week. Not shit, but you know what I mean. You liked it, but like, yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, again, it's all just falling in love with the game, and you'll reach a new level and you're going to get beat down, and then you have to figure out how to win that level, and then you get to the next level and then you get beat down and you have to figure out how to win that level, and it's literally just a never-ending game. So as long as you love the game, you're just going to keep you'll just keep playing. Yeah,
and the best quote I ever really heard was like, you only lose when you stop playing.
Yeah.
And the day you decide that you're going to stop playing, and I've hit this, I tell people this all the time. I mean, I don't know when the last time it was for you, but like I can relate back just 12 months ago, or like less than 12 months ago, where I was like, it was the first time where I questioned it, and I was like, it was the feeling of thinking I lost that I really had to feel, where I was like, all right, I've got my degree, right? That I was like, no chance. Like, absolutely not. I felt sick to my stomach. I literally almost puked having the thought. And I didn't even know I could just do that. Like, I hadn't like eaten anything all day because I was just upset about it, whatever. And like, I literally was sick to my stomach all day because I had half agreed to that decision. And I was like, oh, fuck no. And then now the last, 5 months been more dialed than I've ever been. So it's like, you really have to feel it. Like, you have to go, if you're going downhill, like I wrote about in the blog last week, like you just keep letting it keep letting it roll. And the day you decide to start making small positive action, it will slowly start to get better. But
and that thing that happened to you that really probably made you want to quit and go back. Looking back now, if something like that happens again, cool, whatever.
Cool. I've been through this now.
I've already been through it.
Yeah, but if you've never been through it, you're going to suck at it, so you're going to think it's the end of the world. Like, I love that quote where it's like the only reason like people think they're not good at things is literally because they haven't done enough. You're going to suck at things at first, and that's why you quit because you suck. But if you were really good at it, and after the 5 years, you're going to look back and be like, oh, I was never that bad at this. Like, it's the reps, and unfortunately, it's the reps and failure too. If you don't go through enough failure, you're not going to be resistant enough to get success, essentially, because it's overcoming failure, like we've really hit on today. But I'm curious, just kind of starting to wrap this up, like anything not business related that you have an interest in that you wouldn't say you talk about too much?
One thing that I am very, very passionate about, it's honestly figuring out a way to do your best in the relationships that you have with people. Mm-hmm. I feel a lot of times in business and a lot of this, culture going around that, look, I'm all for going as hard as you can in whatever business, whatever venture that you're building around. But at the same time, I think that you need to have a specific reason that you're doing that. For me, what keeps me going and what drives me is that I want to be able to give a life to the people that I care about, and I want to give them, an awesome life. Mm. I want to be able to take care of people. I really want to give back to the community, and that's what I hope drives me. I hope that when I get to that point one day to where I can look at the bank and I'm very happy of what it looks like, that I'll be excited to give it away. Yeah. And that's not saying, and I will say that starts right now, where I like to give to different charities. I like to give to different missions, tithing at my church. That excites me now. And that is what I tell myself is the reason to continue to keep going. So again, it doesn't have to be any specific thing. Don't think faith-based, don't think, but find some reason why you want to be successful. Mm-hmm. I think that's something that's pretty important to me that I would give somebody advice for, because if it's just because you want a Lamborghini, then honestly it's just not worth it.
Yeah, and it probably won't even happen. Like, I just think a lot of people should start with that, and I think a lot of people sometimes even reach a small level of success, and then if they don't have that strong purpose, it's impossible to sustain it. And like, just to kind of quote Iman again, he talks about like, how the greatest entrepreneurs they don't have the best ideas, they sustain their ideas the longest. It's who can stay in the game at the highest level for the longest amount of time. And honestly, when I talk about levels, I think a lot of that is perspective, because we're all moving at our own pace, and we're all, there is levels to the game, but
if you're going to be using AI, 99% of people, they aren't. So use it to your advantage. If you're a copywriter that you understand that in the next couple of years, your job is going to be outdated, great. Find something that you can do in the future, but right now you have plenty of time to figure everything out. A good example, an entire industry was destroyed in the 1900s. You went from every single person had a horse. Every single person had a horse. When cars were invented, not only did horses go out of business, but people that made the barns for horses, people that had the hay, people that made those saddles, an entire industry. Think about the entire transportation industry changing. So an entire industry in the early 1900s completely went non-existent. Those people still eventually found jobs. Again, people that did not adapt definitely struggled. The ones that adapted, they made it out okay. So again, there wasn't this immediate transition to where you went from everybody has a horse to everybody has a car. There's going to be this transition. So use it to your advantage right now. be able to maximize your efficiency using AI, and then look to the future saying, okay, in 5 years, where will my job be? I understood this to where 6 months ago, or probably, close to a year ago, I thought the opportunity for me to make a lot of money was in these social media clips that you are seeing all over the place now.
Yeah, short form content.
The short form content.
Yeah.
I was like, great, we are becoming a short form content agency 12 months ago. That was the plan.
Yeah.
Then I realized, well, now everybody else is doing it, and now people overseas are doing it, and they're doing it better than I am. I understood, okay, eventually I need to make this pivot, and sooner rather than later. And again, I started, and I figured it out. I figured out there were other opportunities for us to go down, and we were still in the industry of photography, videography, and social media, but it just wasn't as focused on short form.
Yeah, I agree. Cool. Yeah, I think a lot of people are in that spot. Like, you launch a short form agency, everyone's all blowing up, then naturally everything tanked. Yeah. So, but cool, man. I mean, I think this was a super productive conversation overall. Like, any final thoughts?
First of all, you've been awesome. If you aren't subscribed, go ahead, please subscribe, because this podcast is definitely going to go places. And to anybody that's looking to start, I started everything in 2019. So this is 2023. So this is 4 years later. The first 2 years was me playing around. I did not make any sort of money. I can literally show you a pay stub of 2019 and 2020. I think I made a total of $10,000 through my photography, videography services, of which was called Real-Time Media at the time. That was my first. Actually, it was Andy Varnes Photography and then Real-Time Media. I made a total of $10,000, and that was me working 24/7, 7 days a week, because I loved the game and I loved playing the game. So to those of you out there, if you love the game, start playing the game, stay consistent at the game. Eventually, you're going to start, hitting that level 2. You'll hit that level 3. Keep playing. You're going to hit that level 4. And again, I don't know anything. I'm literally figuring everything out as we go. And it's a fake it till you make it type thing. And I'm faking it. And I feel like I'm kind of making it. And we're gonna see what happens.
Yeah, more real by the day, man. But yeah, dude, appreciate that. Obviously, I'll throw Andy's socials up on the screen. And yeah, guys, if you're made it this far, I sincerely appreciate you. We're gonna keep this ball rolling. I was talking to Andy about some big plans for next year. And yeah, like, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.